Hello guys, today we'll have a look at Sima Yi versus Waver, or Reines, Reines versus Waver. So looking at purely based off of stats, when we look over here, Reines has the higher attack, right? Waver has the higher health, and Reines has a lot more better hit counts than Waver over here. Now, when we look at NP generation, it'd be like, whoa, that's a very high difference, literally 1% bigger than Reines when we look at Wavers. However, we gotta remember that Waver literally only has one hit on the arts card, so he's not really doing a lot, and because he has a support NP like Reines, uh, you won't really be refunding it out of that. So let's look at Waver's skills. Uh, so skill 1, Discerning IA, increases one ally's critical damage for 3 turns and charges their NP by 30%. 50% good. Nowadays, this is a golden standard, and he's had it since year 1 after his buffs. And okay, maybe I just lied. He had it before, but you know, we get this 30% NP battery, which is pretty powerful. So, skill 2 is advice of the strategist A+. Increase party's defense by 3 turns by 30% and reduce party's attack taken by 3 turns by 500. This is super helpful for, of course, like a lot of AoE bosses have multiple hitting AoE moves, and this damage cut by 500 removes 500 from every tick, not just the one that entire, I guess, action of attack, and of course a 10% NP gauge, which once again pretty powerful to have on a normal skill, 6 turn cooldown, and remember, oh, and this is also 5 turns, so yeah, powerful shit. And now command of the strategist A+. Increase party's attack by 3 turns, increase party's damage for 3 turns, and increase party's NP gauge by 10%. Increase, and that's attack by 30%, and increase party's damage by 500. This is pretty much negligible. This doesn't really do much. I guess it's nice to have if you're super early into the game and you have a friend with a support waiver, then this is helpful. And of course, 10% NP gauge. Racking these two skills, that's 20, and then plus this 30%, you give the party 20% and you give one person 50%, which is pretty powerful. Pretty powerful indeed. And also, a good thing to note here is that normally charisma skills or AoE attack up skills are normally 20%. This is by 30%, which is pretty good. Pretty good. Above average, right? Now when we look at his NP, stun, this is probably the most important one, is a stun. This is very powerful, of course. Just one turn of the enemy not being able to do anything, right? And then reduces their NP gauge by 1, which I will say it'd be handy if this was like a chance to stun them after and then this, because when the turn ends, this they'll just be at max NP, or they'd be at the same amount of NP gauge they'd have before. So yeah, that is, but at least we get to not experience the unholy damage that is an enemy's NP, regardless, because you'll always guarantee this, not this. And just inflict curse, 6 turns is nice. I think standard DOT time effects are like 5 turns. So this is just a thing to have. 1000 damage is alright. Maybe if you're building a curse comp, this could be nice if you're thinking about that. And chance to reduce their defense, 30%, flat 30%. If you extra copies, it's a 50%. This is still a pretty powerful buff, especially if you don't have anyone in your team who gives you defense down, because, you know, applicative modifiers. So, pretty awesome. And now, let's go to Sima Yi's skills and NP. Advice of this strategy: A. This is basically just Waver's second skill, but worse. It still gives it 10%, but it's only 30%, or I mean, sorry, 25% damage percentage instead of 30. So, you know, just slightly worse. And now we look into here. Emperor Juan of Jin's Command A charges one ally's NP gauge by 20%, increases their attack by 3 turns by 40%, and reduces their own attack by 20% for 3 turns. Now, this is pretty... Does she... Here, so... How do I say this? Party damage up. Party damage... Waver has better party capabilities, at least damage-wise. Once we get into our NP, we'll see what Reines is really about. But over here is just, you know, Waver. If Waver just gives someone 30%, Sima gives that one person 40%. This might be better if you want to do some farming, of course. And this is a pretty powerful skill. Grants one ally invincibility for 2 attacks, 3 turns, and increases their debuff resistance for 3 turns. Charges their NP by 20%. So she gives one ally 40%, but only gives the party 10%. And now, moving on to her NP, Unspoken Formation, Time Immemorable Vanguard. 150% chance to reduce enemy's defense for 3 turns. Scales up to 50, exactly like Waver's. Now, this is pretty powerful. Grants party ignore defense class disadvantage. This basically means that your party just doesn't have a disadvantage. If you're using a saber and they're fighting against an archer, if you activate this NP, and they won't do effective damage. The archer will not do effective damage. Pretty powerful. Increases on NP generation for 3 turns. Super powerful. So let's say, like, this is helpful for farming, of course. Maybe you have a K-scope, right? Maybe you have a K-scope, you have mana loading level 1 with Reines, you activate skill 1, and you can just do this. You should, yeah. And then using Plague Suit, like you do NP, yeah, you get it. It's farming, right? Farming reasons. So, overcharges party's NP by 1 stage for 1 time 3 turns. Nice. I mean, if you're using for farm, like certain farmers that have their overgauge effect directed at like a 3 turn like damage effects, like Space Ishtar, this is powerful. Getting that increased probably 5, I'd assume it'd be 5% on the NP damage up is just, a nice bonus, and removes on debuffs and on the NP, which is nice to have on, because she reduces her own attack. I never mentioned this before, but her second skill, this is like an thing. She's not a DPS in the first place, and she could feed herself this, really. If you somehow end up soloing with her, which oddly she kinda has. She has a tanky kit, and I guess this is where we'll segue into. Oh wait, no, not segue first, but 20% minus crit chance, powerful, or not powerful, but very helpful against certain bosses. Now, this is where we'll start comparing. So we did stats earlier, so I won't need to get into that. But clearly, Sima Yi has much more just normal defensive power and farming capabilities, and is better if I think if you have like a singular servant. Actually, no, I take that back. They're still about even. You give or take, really. I really do put them in equal footing. They are like sides of the same coin. So, like, in terms of like party capability, I mean, Waver just gives the better like stats, like, yeah, like slightly higher defense up by 5%, third skill, an attack up 30% for the entire team, including himself, of course, which only Reines can only give 40%, while still powerful, only allows one person to get that buff. But where I'd say he actually is much more powerful than Sima Yi and is, I guess, offensive capability because of this skill, 50% to one ally. If you're using one DPS, gen some stars, give this to them, shit out damage. That's simple, right? And Sima Yi obviously has the insane defensive capability to just, give two instances of invulnerability for 3 turns, and a debuff resistance, which is neat to have. Waver also allows 20% for the party, while Sima only allows 10%. Now, when we look at their NPs, I feel like it's much more harder to compare them because they do different things. Sima Yi grants this defense class disadvantage and gives some extra buffs in return to the party. And removes on debuffs. This is more like mitigation, I think is what you'd call this, right? Plus the reduce the defense of enemies, right? And now when we look at waivers, reduce all NP gauge by 1, and the stun is very powerful. So while I think maybe this is like there is like you pick and choose really, but also Waver has, he's non-limited. Waver is a non-limited servant, right? You'll always have a chance to use Waver. You'll get Waver from the free 5-star tickets this year, or if you were here last year, you all probably already have Waver, unless you chose a waifu or husbando, of course, which you should not be afraid to say you used your tickets on. So yeah, Sima Yi versus Waver. Sima Yi technically has more defensive capabilities for one ally, while Waver here has the more generally like party-wide offensive kit. Sima Yi can just funnel all of that defensive capability and damage to one unit. And in terms of farming, technically Sima Yi would be better. If you ever like think, and you probably also have like a Bond 10 waiver. Like if you've been playing this game for a while, you probably have a Bond 10 waiver, right? So you don't really want to use waiver, I guess, in farming if you're still using waiver, if you still have to. if you know, using NP 50 CE and you don't have a 50% battery, grab a waiver, do double Scotty, Castoria, Tamamovich when she drops, right? And you know, if you have just like I said, a K scope plus mana loading, at level 1 you can do skill 1 and just voila, give your homie a 30% NP, and then with plug suit, roll her out, and on turn 2, you know, you're doing this NP first, and then you're doing your main DPS as NP, so you get that extra NP, right? And then at wave 2, you plug suit this out, right? Give your homie the other buff, and all is well and good. So yeah, that's today's video. If you liked it, please like and hit the subscribe button. Uh, this is also my first video, literally ever, so uh, give me tips, please. Give me a lot of tips. I need them really badly. Anyways, Chloe, out.